Your feet have been taking you so many places over the years, and they deserve to relax. So bring your attention to your feet and simply allow them to relax. All of your attention at the soles of your feet, relaxing any unnecessary tension. Imagine this is what connects you to the earth. Each step you take has made a difference in your life and moved you through hard times as well as achievements. Breathe in deeply and send your feet love and respect for everywhere they have taken you. Over the years, even just today, this morning. Now imagine the earth below you supporting you every move. The ground is your place of connection, and no matter how high up you go or how long your feet are elevated, you always become grounded once again. Become aware of the ground below you, wherever it may be, and know that it is a source of pure connection to all that is. Imagine now that from the bottoms of your feet, the roots of your soul are growing and extending down towards the earth. They make contact with the soil below, wherever it may be, and you feel the constant connection and security filled with unconditional love. So relaxed as you feel this amazing connection with the earth, feel these roots strong and unbreakable. They are now going into the earth and taking root, allowing you to feel ultimate relaxation. See these roots however they appear. They could be your favorite color, or they can look like regular roots look like. Feel them ground you. The soles of your feet are strong and resilient. You have found the link between you and the earth. This is a bond that cannot be broken. You come from the earth, and we are always connected to it. Feel the union between you and the soil. By becoming grounded on a daily basis, you are strengthening the alliance between earth and human. Now allow the earth and all of your love to teach you anything you need to know, and listen with an open heart and mind. Familiarize yourself with the message you hear. Allow the earth to introduce you to the power of true connection. Now breathe in deeply again. Imagine that you are drawing that powerful experience of connection up your legs, feeling this bond relax your body as if it releases any tension along the way. Breathe in again, feeling the union of earth and body traveling up into your hips and pelvis, deeply relaxing you. Breathing fully and passionately, feel the partnership between humans and earth traveling up into your abdomen and ribs. Noticing how being grounded is such a blessing. Feel that connection. Travel into your chest and lungs, gracing your heart with love, going back to that unconditional love. The earth loves unconditionally. She forever gives and only hopes for care and respect in return. This deep bond of love is traveling up your neck and deleting any tension there. This relaxing sensation goes into your entire head, training all of your muscles and bones to become fully relaxed. The alliance between you and earth travels all the way to the very top of your head. Notice how you feel right now. You are fully grounded and fully present, combining that combination between the earth and your flesh. There's a deep relationship between you and the earth, one that cannot be broken and must always be nurtured. You and the earth have formed a relationship, one that makes you feel loved and cared for. Now hear yourself saying these positive words, reflecting the connection to the ground below. Togetherness, partnership, bonded, unified, alliance, connected, grounded. Now imagine those roots coming from the soles of your feet. They have now grounded deep into the earth that you can feel the connection to others around the world. Begin to slowly draw your awareness to this present moment. Again, feeling forever connected to the earth and all her wisdom. When you are ready, softly open your eyes and thank the earth and yourself for connecting. Thank you. Maybe go for a couple rounds of breath, bringing yourself back into the space, and just notice how you feel. Thank you guys for connecting with me.
Thank you so much, Zen. That was absolutely beautiful. So, and perfect way to start our conversation. So just before we begin, for those of you who would like to just see the speaker view, so there's like just the view of the person who's talking, you can click speaker view in your upper right-hand corner. Or if you'd like to be in community and see all the beautiful faces, you can keep it in gallery view. So it's totally up to you. But I would just love to start this dialogue by hearing from each of you, Kirsten, Maureen, and Zen, just a little bit about your individual stories and just who you are.
Oh, I can go first. Hi, everybody. My name's Kirsten Rogers. Really grateful to be here with all of you. I would say I'll start with my yoga journey. We don't have to start at the beginning, but I'll start with my yoga journey. I came to the practice of yoga, I think similar to the way that many people have come to the practice of yoga. I was very stressed and overwhelmed with my career path in particular, and just felt really lost. And I think the best way to describe it is I felt asleep. And I had started practicing yoga in college and kind of fell away from it, and then was reminded of just different tools to deal with stress, to deal with anxiety, to deal with depression. And I started taking yoga classes. And from that experience, I was connected to some really wonderful meditation teachers that kind of opened my eyes, and I just slowly felt myself starting to wake up. And I feel that a lot of people can understand what I mean by that. And from that point onward, I just inherently knew that this was the path for me. And I started my teacher training. And in that first teacher training, I did it in San Francisco. It became very clear, because I was the only Black person in that training, that a part of what I feel called to do, especially even now, is to bring this practice to my community. Meditation, yoga, and all of these healing modalities have been super important to just my own personal healing. And it was something that was never a part of my upbringing. It wasn't a part of my family. We didn't talk about anything related to connecting with the self and reflecting in the way that ultimately resonated with me. And from that point forward, I felt called to share this practice with other people. And I happened to connect with Zen and Maureen. And from there, the rest is history. And I've been teaching in a lot of different capacities, and was really lucky to stumble upon Breathe for Change, and was the meditation lead for the spring training. And I see a lot of you folks in this room. Great to see you all. And I'll just sum it up sum it up as, a lot of questions now are center around what we're supposed to be doing right now. And I feel really grounded in my purpose to be working with Maureen and Zen to be doing this work. So I'm thankful to be here to share that work with you all.
Thank you, Kirsten. Maureen, you want to share next? Oop, you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
All right. Well, so before I speak in front of groups of people, groups where there's more than say 4 or 5 people in the room, I always put out there that I don't like public speaking. And part of the reason why my yoga practice has been such a boon is because I have dealt with depression and anxiety for most of my adult life. And so my yoga practice really helps keep me grounded. So I really appreciate then that meditation that you did just now, because as I was thinking about having to speak, I was starting to get anxious, and you kept saying root, root, root. So thank you, Zen. I came into yoga in a really odd way, because I'm a certified public accountant by trade, and so now I'm trying to figure out in the second half of my life how to really really anchor into what I know now to be what I have to offer the world, which is teaching yoga. I absolutely love teaching yoga. And many, many years ago, I was the administrator for an organization called Off the Mat Into the World. And some of you might have heard of this organization with Sean Hall and Suzanne. And I was the only one on the team who was not actually a yoga teacher. And, I was sort of the left brain person in the room with all of the right brain creative folks. And so I got into practicing then, and then years and years and years, so that was many years ago. I actually took my very first yoga class when my son, who turned 17 yesterday, was in my belly. So I came in prenatally, but I didn't do yoga until I joined with Off the Mat Into the World, and I toyed around with it. And then in 2014, there was a little yoga studio a couple of blocks from where I used to work called Barefoot Movement in Oakland. And they were offering this amazing special, unlimited yoga for $60 a month. And I was like, whoa, so I joined, I did unlimited yoga, and I found myself doing yoga like 3-4 times a week. And one of the teachers came to me one day and she said, have you ever thought about teaching? And just like all those other crazy ideas, I thought about it, but I was like, nah, I could never be a teacher. I'm an accountant. But that planted the seed. And I took the yoga teacher training program in 2015. And shortly after, I went to work for that studio right after I graduated. And since then, have just been finding ways to get more and more involved. And in 2018, Black to Yoga was birthed. And since then, it's just been really an amazing journey with these two beautiful people, and building this community has really anchored me into what I know that I'm supposed to be doing with my life, which is a really great feeling.
Beautiful. Thank you, Maureen. And last but not least, Zen.
Right. Hey guys, I'm Zen. I started my yoga practice in 2014. I was later into the year, and I was going through a really deep depression, and I didn't know what to do. I was talking to my best friend about it, and he was like, well, have you ever tried yoga? And I was like, no, I've never thought myself to be a yoga person. And so I was like, well, no, I never tried. He was like, well, just try it. I've done a couple classes online or whatever, and I felt more relaxed after. So I tried it at home, and I was like, this is pretty cool. So I tried it again, and I started trying to do the second class I tried was adding arm balances in there. And I was like, wait, what? And so I'm looking you want me to do what? And so I tried it. And the fact that I could do it, that got me super excited. And so I was running around my house oh my gosh, I did it. And I just wanted to keep doing that. So the more I kept doing that, I stayed at my house and was just practicing. And then one of my other friends was like, well, why don't you go to the studio? And I was like, well, I'm shy. I don't want to go to the studio because I don't want other people to be watching me and stuff like that. But she ended up coming with me, and we had a great time. Of course, in that class, we were the only two people in there that looked like us. And so it was still a good class, but at the same time, it's I still kind of wanted something different. So the more I started teaching, my friends and stuff, I wasn't even thinking about getting a teacher training certification. I was just trying to share that same feeling that I got with them because they needed it too. And so now I was looking online, and you know how those robots online will show you the different stuff that you're thinking about or you talk about with somebody else because they're spying. That came up, and it was showing me something like a teacher training in Houston, Texas. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to check that out. And they had a deal going, of course, like Maureen said, I feel like that's just another throw in there right there. What if it's a deal? Wow, what a bargain. Of course I'm going to do this now. And so when I did that, this history from there, just kept teaching, and then I ended up moving back to California, and that's where I met these two ladies and just kept moving forward. And since we started Black to Yoga to now, there's so many different things that I've learned. There's so many different people I've met. And so just doing all of this in itself within these past 2 years, that lets me know that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, regardless whether I'm there with you guys in California or I'm out here in Texas. It's still going to happen, and I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad to just share all this knowledge.
So awesome. Thank you, Zen. And you all, it was really beautiful to hear your individual stories and how it brought you all together. And I would love to hear more about how Black to Yoga started, sort of what how it started growing and yeah, where it is now.
So, you know, the three of us, we call ourselves the co-creators of Black to Yoga. And the reason why was because there was another person in the group who we name as our founder, who actually brought the four of us together. And this was a person who I taught with. This was back in 2018, and she came to me one day and she said, you know, Maureen, I'm really sick of my Black students coming up to me at the end of class and saying, how come you're the only Black instructor that I've ever taken? How come when I come into these yoga rooms, I'm the only Black person in the room? And, you know, she said, we need to do something about that. So for those of you who are in the room now, I want to sort of dismiss the idea of the three of us being experts in how to do this, because really what we did is we just saw a hole and we filled it, right? Like, we're not experts. We don't really have a step 1, 2, and 3. We just knew that this was an issue. And so we created something, right? We created something that didn't exist. And so I talked to her and I was like, you know, that's a really good idea. She brought in Kirsten and Zen, and the four of us got together in February of 2018 and crafted this idea, which started out as a 4-class yoga extravaganza is what we called it. So in March of 2018, we had our very first Black to Yoga, and it was 4 back-to-back classes. You bought a ticket. You could take one class. You could take all 4 classes. And in addition, because part of our mission was to create community, we had local vendors in the spot selling their goods and services. So we had, you know, we had this amazing space. Let's see, the first time we did it, we were in WeWork, right? Were we in WeWork? Yeah. So WeWork in downtown Oakland. We had this amazing space where we kind of had 2 floors. On the top floor, we had a yoga room. No. The first time we were all on 1 floor, right? We had a room.
One room.
Yeah, we had a room for the yoga that was closed off, and then we had this whole amazing space where people could hang out, and we had food, and we had vendors, and people just, you know, they stayed even when they weren't taking classes, and they just talked to each other. And everybody that was there, we had like our first event had, I think we sold over 50 tickets to that first event. And the room that we had, every single class was packed. I think the first class, I taught the first class, it was at 8 o'clock. Maybe that room wasn't packed, but all the other classes, I mean, we had some people in there that took all 4 classes. So that's sort of how we got started. And then all throughout that year, we did this monthly extravaganza. We did it the fourth Sunday, I think it was, of every month. We had Black to Yoga, and then it sort of morphed from there. Before we went into quarantine, we were doing something called Reunion, and you can actually read about Reunion on our website. And that was a weekly extravaganza, similar to the monthly thing, except that we didn't have our vendors. We only had our vendors once a month, but the Reunion was weekly. 3 classes back to back, including a guest instructor.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And those of you who are familiar with the Bay Area, Reunion happened at a place called the Impact Hub in downtown Oakland, which is a beautiful, beautiful space. Now called Evolve, by the way. Yeah.
So you mentioned up to before quarantine. So I'm curious, how is Black to Yoga creating safe spaces for your community now?
We are doing classes online, so every day of the week we have a class. Some days we have multiple classes, so there's different ways for you to join in on the class. It's on Zoom, and they're all donation-based, so it's donate what you can if you can, because we know that everybody needs this right now. So some people pay it forward, and then some people who can't donate, they still come to class and they still get that movement that they need. So we've been doing that and expanding our offerings. So the fact that we can do so many classes online we can do so many different types of classes. And I'm really excited because I've seen a need for a lot of my students. They wanted to do a lot more arm balances and inversions, so we brought that in. And along with gentle yoga and hatha yoga, beginner yoga. So now we can expand our offerings because we're online, because we can do so much more online. So it's an awesome thing. And if you guys haven't joined our classes, it's on Zoom. Like I said, donation based. We have class every day of the week, different times, different types of class, whatever you want, we got it.
We'll make sure to send a link to that in our follow-up to everyone who's on here too.
That, prior to being in quarantine, what made Black Tea Yoga really unique is that, we are very intentionally Black. It's in the name, Black Tea Yoga. There's like a little confusion around what you might expect. And we really focus around having teachers of color, particularly Black teachers from the African diaspora, teach yoga classes, and also being able to walk into a room where you see other people that look like you. And it can't be understated how important that can be if you're trying something new, especially something that we're, as teachers, we encourage people to be vulnerable, and you're not necessarily going to be open to feeling vulnerable or safe when you are the only person. And I know that I've had that experience. So really working hard to cultivate that. And as we transitioned online, I personally had some concern that we wouldn't be able to continue to have that space because we're not all in the same space together and you're not able to see all of the people around you. But that really hasn't changed so much. It's actually expanded, our network and our ability to share yoga with people that may not have known about this as a healing modality, and as well as expose students to other teachers that are Black, just really expanding the network so that we're also giving teachers from around the country a platform to share their practice. So now that we've moved online, it's actually really grown this movement to something that's really beautiful. So, yeah.
The global impact it's felt right now. It's amazing. So in our conversation that we had before this, you had talked about, or we mentioned the word inclusivity that was brought up in our conversation. And we talked about how it's becoming a buzzword and a lot of people are exploring it in the yoga space, that term inclusivity. And so can you elaborate on your perspective here? And Maureen, I'll shout out to you to start that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we were having the conversation, and I brought it up because I've been hearing it a lot. I think we all hear it a lot. This idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think that all those things are important. And I also think that if we think that that's it, like if we stop there, then we're really missing the mark. Because fundamentally the reason why this healing modality is still mostly white has to do with the root of it, which is always economics. And when we talk about inclusion, we often think about bringing Black people into a white space, and that's great. And it also is not always the fix, right? I mean, with Black Tea Yoga, what we did is we created a place for our own. We created a place where that felt like it belonged to us, that we had a sense of belonging, a sense of community there. I think I shared with you one of the things that Black Tea Yoga does is we are often asked to come into different sorts of community-based organizations as teachers. So we get calls from different community-based organizations, and one of the organizations that we recently went into in East Oakland, which is a very poor area. I think Oakland, California often gets a bad rap nationally and globally because when people think of Oakland, they often think of the very poorest parts. East Oakland happens to be one of those predominantly Black areas. There's a community center called Roots Community Center in East Oakland on around 90th. And they invited us into their space to teach a yoga class for their community. And at the end of it, I shared that we do these weekly yoga extravaganzas in downtown Oakland. You're all welcome to come. And the feedback I got was, no, we don't want to leave our neighborhood. We don't feel safe anywhere else except for our neighborhood. And so the idea is that we, you know, in addition to equity and inclusion, is this idea of accessibility, which also includes dealing with the fundamental economic inequity that continues to plague the community. And figuring out how to increase access to economic resources as well.
Thank you so much for that important perspective. Is there anything that you want to add to that, Kirsten or Zen? She's on mute.
Yeah, I think we all, me and it wasn't an organization, we all agree with Maureen. Another piece that I would add in terms of, like, I'm still formulating my thought on this, but I think a part of Black to Yoga, our mission so much isn't that we're inclusive. Like, that's not something that we're specifically trying to do. It's something that is important because yoga means union, and we try not to be exclusive. And a lot of students come to us that are not Black asking, you know, if it's okay, if it's like the right thing to do to come to our class if we're not Black. And I think that's another important piece about trying to be inclusive. The answer, of course, is yes. Yes, it's super, we encourage non-Black people to come to Black to Yoga. And one of the main reasons is to also feel what it's like to be the only person that's not, you know, to feel what it's like to be the only person in the room. And I think that experience is really important. And a lot of people that have come to our classes, I'm thinking of one yoga teacher who's white. She came to our class and she said it was just such a transformative experience to feel what it must feel like to be the other. So one of the reasons we encourage non-Black people to come is just to feel that and to sit with that and to practice sitting with that, just to understand why these spaces exist and why we've created this space. So that's my additional point about inclusion and exclusion.
Thanks, Kirsten. Is there anything you want to add to that, Zen?
No, I actually agree fully with what both of them said, like point for point. So no, I don't have anything to add.
Beautiful. So, you know, we also talked about how a ton of people from all different spaces and places and backgrounds are asking the question, like, what do I do right now? And so what's your response here and how people can support?
I honestly feel like, personally, I feel like the best way people can support now is be more mindful, support with resources, because like Maureen said earlier, that's one of the main things, resources. So put those resources out any way you can, whether it's money, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's just sharing the knowledge that you have, share that as much as you can rather than being silent.
I'll say, you know, I have this question comes up a lot for me too, is in what can I do in this time in history that is uniquely, like, we'll never experience this the way that it's happening now again. And I think what we are all being challenged to do as yogis is to kind of sit with everything that's coming up and process that on our own. And that's really challenging, to actually sit with all the things that are happening. And once we're able to do that and really like heal that, it'll become clear what our role is. And that's really what I've been doing. And I've been getting affirmation that what I'm doing right now is exactly what I need to do. But I think we're just being reminded to be with what is happening. And the answers, I think there's also a lot of pressure to do certain things because there's, that's just kind of the energy of what's happening right now. But I also think we have to come back to ourselves, and like only we know what to do. And if we can sit with that and then from that place act, I feel like that's the call that's being asked of us.
Especially as yoga teachers. Like, that's the point, you know? And my heart goes out to folks who are feeling, you know, helpless and hopeless and confused and frustrated because of what I see is a lot of mixed messages, especially mixed messages to white people, that, you know, you got to do this, or you can't do this, or you have to use your platform, or you have to stay silent, you have to listen, you have to talk. And, you know, what's going on is a massive amount of chaos, like an eruption that has to come up. It's sort of like the idea of, you know, you get a pimple on your face, you know, and you pick at it, and it starts getting, you know, it wants to burst. This is sort of like the bursting, and it gets really ugly for a while. But it has to happen in order to heal, like this massive chaotic situation that's really been under the surface for so long. And that, like Kirsten said, what we're being called to do as yoga instructors is to sit and to figure out for ourselves, what are we called to do? What are we called to do? Because the answer is never out there. The answer is never fixing the shit that's going on out there. Like what's going on out there is a projection of the internal chaotic situation that's happening in every single one of us. So the call is to sit with that, as white people, to sit with that uncomfortable, horrific feeling of ancestral trauma, and then to act from that perspective. And whenever you act from that perspective of the internal fire, it's going to be the right thing, no matter what anybody else on the outside says. It's when you're pressured to act from the outside in where things get really messed up, where you're just doing things because somebody else has told you that this is what you should be doing. Everybody has a different situation, and we're all similar in some ways too, as a shared humanity, but everybody has a different situation. Everybody's going to be called to do something differently in this, and everybody has a role, but it's got to start with sitting and being silent and listening, not to anybody out there, but listening to inside.
Well said, Mo. Well said.
You just directly answered one of the questions that one of the participants asked, which was, what role do you think yoga teachers have during these times of political and social unrest? And it's like, sit.
To do the yoga.
Do the yoga.
To do the damn yoga. You know, like Sutra 1.2, yoga is the ability to calm the fluctuations of the mind so that we can have clear perception. Our perception is really messed up right now.
Thank you, Maureen. And are there any particular learnings or insights that you're gaining? You know, you've started this movement, you're in connection with so many people. What are you learning from your community? What resources are they asking for?
We actually, you know, right before, like maybe 2 weeks ago, we decided to send out a survey to every single person in our network to see what it is that we can be adding, how they feel about our different offerings, what we can do to support individuals as they're practicing at home or in any way at all. And the responses were overwhelmingly positive, and I think what that affirmed for us is we're doing what we need to do. We're providing a space, whether it be online, even if it's not in person, and hopefully it'll be in person soon. We're providing a space for people to come to process, to sit, to be with people that they feel comfortable with. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's all Black people, but I think what our community has asked of us is to keep doing this, you know, and that's what we're doing, you know. And we continue to pivot and we continue to listen and change as the needs change. You know, as things are happening now, I think we're also really mindful of how we're approaching our classes and offering what we need according to what is happening outside, just because, you know, this is the time to remind people to be very mindful of how they're feeling and to sit with that, you know. So I think we're being very intentional about doing our yoga so that we can share that, you know, with our students, and then they can continue to share that and continue to pass that along.
So awesome that you're hearing from your community and taking that. So we have a couple questions already in the chat, so I would love to just hear from the voices here. If you have any other questions, you can add them into the chat and I'll take a look. So one of the questions that came through from Bruce is, have you enjoyed success in, or experienced any success in recruiting Black men as teachers or students?
Go for it, Maureen.
I'm gonna answer that one because that's like,
She's ready.
so since the beginning, to me, it's my personal opinion, nobody has to share it, that in America, Black men have the greatest deal of the struggle, the anxiety, the pressure. When Black men walk outside, and I'm not saying that Black women don't either have a level, but when Black men, and I've talked to a lot of Black men about this, I was married to one, I have a Black son, that when they walk out their door, they're a target, and they have to assess the threat every single time that they walk out their door. So they're never living on the offensive. They're never living on the offensive. They never get to go out there and go, what am I going to create today, right? They're like, where's the threat? Let me just make sure that I know where the threat is and what I need to do and make sure that I'm going to be ready. How anxiety producing is that? How anxiety producing to walk outside your door and never ever feel comfortable. So it's my personal opinion that this practice is so needed for Black men. So needed for Black men. And in order to get more Black men into this practice, what do we need to do? We have to have Black teachers. We have to have Black male teachers. So Black to Yoga, because we've striven to figure out where those Black yoga teachers are and to bring them in as guest instructors, we have managed to successfully have classes, have our classes have such a larger number of Black men than I think I've seen anywhere. Like if you go to our, those of you who are on social media, Facebook or Instagram, we've lots of times post photos of our classes, and there are so many Black men in those classes. I mean, we've created such an amazing community of Black yoga teachers. And now that we are able to, now that we've got the whole United States to choose from in terms of having guest instructors, it's been so great. Just yesterday, we had John from Atlanta, Georgia, teach his first Black yoga class, and a bunch of his community was there. So we've been highly successful at doing that and really proud about it. Yeah.
It's so awesome. I love it. So a question from Ashley, which is, I would love to hear from the three of you about your message to some white yogis who feel that the practice of yoga isn't, quote, Black or white, but that it's all one human race. So what message do you all have for that perspective?
Well,
clarify that. Okay, go ahead, guys.
No, go ahead. I would say, of course, yoga is for everyone, but like we were saying in the beginning, of course that it is for everyone, but each side of the party needs to see what it feels like to be like the other person, because you can't know what it's like unless you've experienced it on your own. Because yes, we are all trying to practice the same thing, but there are different factors that come into that, just like going into the class and feeling uncomfortable because you're the only person that looks like you when they're like that. So that's another reason why, like Kirsten had said earlier, like how some non-Black people come to our event and experience that, and it's not like an experience like, oh my gosh, I didn't like that. It's just a different feeling, like, oh, I didn't look at it from that point of view. It's a different perspective. So it's not like saying that, it's not trying to turn it into a racing. It's just looking at it for what it is and trying to move forward from that and explaining it to people who think that, oh, it has to be a racing. No, it doesn't have to be a racing, but I need you to see where I'm coming from, regardless of race.
I would add to that yeah, yoga isn't a white or black thing, but if you are a yogi trying to practice yoga in America, or if you're just a human being, you would think based on what you see that it is white. Like that's what's shown. So our intention is to show that there are yogis of all colors, and this space we're trying to cultivate so there are more black yogis come to the practice, because for many different reasons that is not happening, and why we exist is to make that happen, or to at least create a space or create access for that to happen. So I would say yes, and this is why we exist, to kind of highlight that it isn't white or black.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add to that, Maureen?
I don't know if I understood the question, and I just wanted you to repeat the question again.
Sure. It was, what is your perspective, like when white yogis who feel that the practice of yoga isn't black or white, and that we are all one human race? Like, what would you say? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that statement. I agree with that statement. It isn't. It's a human thing. It's just that given the way that yoga was brought here to the United States, and I believe it was brought by Indira Devi, or at least she's one of the faces, and given how it's been hijacked mostly by money, the face now of yoga in America is a white face. So yeah, to Kirsten's point, this is why we exist, because yoga is for everybody. As a matter of fact, that's in our slogan. Yoga is for everybody. Yoga means union. And Kirsten mentioned before, our space is not an exclusive space because yoga means union. So I know that there are those black spaces that are exclusive. This is a space for black people, and we respect that. And there are places for those. There's a place for that. Because yoga means union, black yoga is not one of those exclusive spaces. Now, just by its name, mostly we attract black and brown people. Mostly we attract African diasporic people, but everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome.
And speaking of everybody is welcome, there's several questions in the chat, like from people from all over the United States, asking about, like, do you have folks in Boston who are teaching through Black to Yoga, or where are there other areas beyond just the Bay Area that are active right now? / where's your vision around growth there?
I'll take it. Black to Yoga was founded and is based in Oakland, but given everything that's happening now, I mean, it's ripe for expansion. So the three of us, Zen is in Houston now. So what we envision is that there are these little, just like Breathe for Change, there are these little places around the country and hopefully around the world where this is the spark, but it matched the match is lit kind of around the country. So right now we don't have any other teachers specifically in Boston, but the idea is to grow this into a national network. So if you're a Boston yogi, we'd love to have you.
Love it. Other than attending your yoga classes, which you've obviously made very accessible to all of us, are there other ways that we can support the Black yoga teachers and Black-owned yoga studios in our communities now?
With resources, and maybe those resources are money, right? Because if we remember that there's a fundamental economic imbalance, right? That what is needed is access to resources. And if those resources aren't money, maybe those resources are in who you know. Can you connect me with somebody who might be able to do this for me, right? So I'm reminded of this adage: when you're You know, especially when you're young and you're looking for that first or second job, it's oftentimes not what you know, it's who you know. And the people who are in the know get other people in the know. So if you know somebody who might be able to help this person out with this resource, maybe you have an amazing marketing person. I don't know, you know, it's connecting, it's getting connected, it's getting access to those resources so that we can level the playing field here a little bit.
So this is from Todd, who will be taking a future Breathe for Change training. So I'm an elementary teacher and I'm white, and I'm wanting to offer yoga classes to my students who mostly are people of color as a way to help cope, self-regulate, and as a method of practicing wellness and social emotional learning. What do you suggest to a newbie for drawing on the children of color for a yoga practice?
I would say bring fun into the practice, because I feel like when it comes to kids and practicing yoga, just saying what the pose is and guiding them through the pose, that might be boring. But if you make it fun, make it like, depending on how old the kids are, maybe make some animal references or something like that. Maybe make some sounds, like turn it into a game or something. Make it more fun for them so they want to do it, not so it's like, hey, I'm telling you to do this, so you have to. Or maybe like make it something like, hey, you demo this pose, like Simon says, like little games. Just make it fun for them so they're more engaged.
The great thing about kids, did he say fourth graders?
Yeah.
Fourth graders? Yeah. The great thing about kids is that kids are natural yogis. Kids are natural yogis. And yoga really lends itself well to teaching to kids because the poses are a lot of the poses are from nature. You know, you have mountain pose and you have cat-cow pose. So the guy who was teaching yesterday, John, he actually is a middle school teacher and he teaches a lot of classes to kids. And he was doing, I mean, this is, you know, he was teaching our class yesterday, which is a group of grown-ups, but he was, you know, doing the cow sounds and the cat sounds, you know? So just like Zen said, like making it fun and knowing that the poses themselves lend themselves really well to kids. You just got to get into that kid mindset. Keep it light, you know, it doesn't need to be heavy for them. Let's not put our baggage on them. You know, they'll get that soon enough.
Totally. I love this conversation, and I'm loving this other question because we were talking about it before. So have you ever brought yoga into high schools, and what's your experience been like there?
Hey, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I actually teach yoga in high schools on a weekly basis at Skyline High here in Oakland, but me and Maureen recently taught classes for students, a part of their adulting curriculum. They had a self-care unit, and me and Maureen went and taught 3 back-to-back classes. And, you know, it was challenging. it was challenging. And a lot of what we brought resonated with some students, and a lot of it didn't. And a lot of students really appreciated that Shavasana. And it was just really interesting and also really powerful how, you know, it was very challenging for many of the classes up to that point. And in Shavasana, there was this stillness and there was this peace and there was this relaxation. And it kind of reminded me why this is so important and why it's also important to have this consistently rather than having someone come in to teach you a yoga class once a year to expose you to yoga. What would it be like to have somebody coming back to do that? But it was also interesting because a lot of these students, this was their first experience with yoga ever. And I think it's really powerful that their first experience was with 2 Black teachers, to at least know that this is for everyone. This doesn't, you know, yeah, I think that it was challenging, but it was also very powerful. I'll sum it up with that. And I think yoga is so important in high school. And I wish that I don't know how it would have landed for me in high school. I probably would have, you know, pushed it to the side, but, you know, much like a lot of things, you're still taking it in. Even if you don't necessarily see that it's valuable in that moment, you're still taking it in, and these are tools and resources that will be useful later. So I'm 100% advocate for bringing yoga to schools, and particularly high schools and schools in general. So And I know a lot of different organizations that do that. So if you have any questions about that, I would love to link with you.
Mm. And yeah, in general, there was a couple questions just about how do we keep in touch with you? Can we reach out via your website, via Facebook? Can we share what you're doing on Facebook? Can you just speak to how people can continue to support and promote and stay connected with you all?
Yeah, we're on all the social media channels. Facebook is Black to Yoga. Instagram is Black to Yoga. We're also on Meetup. And now that our classes are online, that's where we also post all of our classes. We have classes every single day, different styles, and we're continuing to add classes so that we can bring more Black teachers into the fold. You can come visit our website at www.blacktoyoga.com and link with us there. Essentially, any way that you can think about how to get in touch with us, we're there. So, yeah.
You've made it available. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we could probably go on in conversation for hours together. And I know that this, at least for me, this has been so profound and so inspiring to hear not only the vision that you have, but how you've brought this to life and how it's impacting so many people across so many communities. And it's only continuing to have a deeper impact. And I am just so grateful, one, that, Kirsten, that we've had the opportunity to connect, and you've been such a huge part of Breathe for Change, but then that you are standing for this bigger mission and movement that is just so important right now and always will be. So thank you so much to the three of you, and to everybody who has taken this last hour to hear their perspectives, their stories. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and learning and growing with us. I know that this in Breathe for Change is really wanting to support Black to Yoga in every way that we can. We're going to be making a big donation to them, and we're just inviting anyone who can to contribute resources and just support to this incredible organization and to these three co-creators who are, growing the magic. So you can give them any donations at Black to Yoga on their website, or of course, reach out to them for further collaboration and dialogue. And Breathe for Change is doing, I'm leading yoga classes as well throughout the week, which is on our website. And usually it's just for free, but for this week and the weeks coming, we'll be asking people who can to also give to Black to Yoga. So thank you all so much. I hope that this was as valuable for you all as it was for me. And you want to close us with some final words, you three, or some final breaths, whatever you want?
Anybody?
Go for it, Zen.
All right. So first off, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you guys for having us here and just listening to what we have to say. Just go ahead and bring your eyes to a soft close. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice where it is in your body. Notice how it feels. Nice, gentle breaths. As you step out of this space today, I want you to know that you're supposed to be. And again, just like we were saying in the beginning, make sure you sit with yourself and do what you can. When you do what you can, that's absolutely your best, and your best is always enough. But bring your palms to heart center. Nice deep inhale. And as you exhale, softly allow your eyes to open. And bring yourself back into the space. Again, thank you all so much for us and having us here and your support.